Shinrai, she, Shinrai, she, Shinrai, she, Shinrai, Shin. Hello, folks. Welcome to Satellite Psychic. I'm your host, Reverend Bliem Kern. Don't be alarmed by my patch, folks. I had my operation a few days ago, and a few days I'll be able to take it off. I'll be able to see as good as new. Had a little operation on my eye there. Today, folks, we have with us dear old friend John Davis. How you doing, John?
Hi, Bill.
Nice to see you. John came in from Michigan to be with us today, folks. John is president of World Light Travels. He's the director of the Coptic Fellowship. He's the director of the Spiritual Unity of Nations. And he's the best spiritual numerologist that I know. And that's without par excellence, without equal there. That's what I was trying to find, folks. This eyeball, you know, this eye affects me. So, John, there's so many things here we can talk about. Now, you've traveled all over the world, right? You've been to...
I've been a few places.
Russia.
Right.
China.
Right.
Tibet.
Right.
Peru.
Right.
Egypt. India.
Yes.
All these places. See, folks, John has really been all over the world, and his World Light Travels. Why don't you tell us a little about... You have two really good journeys coming up,
We're going to Greece and Egypt next year.
Yeah.
And we started in 1984. We were one of the first metaphysical organizations to travel different parts of the world.
Right.
And now many people are doing it, and of course we're happy about that. But next year we're focusing on Egypt, and we're focusing on Greece. And we go there to familiarize people with the different cultures of the world.
Yeah.
The fact that we are one family, and that we're basically the same.
Yeah.
And trips are life transforming for people. They not only see the similarity of people, but they also get in touch with who they are and what they represent.
Right.
And not all countries are like the United States.
That's true.
So it really transcends the fact that we are different and brings back the commonality of who we are.
So is there a theme to the trip to Greece?
Return of the Goddess.
Return of the Goddess.
We're into the empowerment of the woman.
Yes.
Which will be in full bloom by the year 2000. And as a result, we're going to Greece to get in touch with that feminine energy.
Wow, that's great.
So this is going to be widely publicized, this particular tour, because we feel that this year of the woman will lead into the millennium of the woman eventually. The power of the heart again.
Sharing the reins of power for a change, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good thing, folks. I think that is a good thing. And what's the theme of the Egypt trip then?
Well, Egypt, the cradle of ancient civilizations. I've been there 12 times. We go there every November during the Scorpionic time.
Yeah.
And we travel up the Nile, touching into the ancient temples representing the chakra systems. And these ancient temples in Egypt are still in total form.
Yeah.
And so the individuals go into these different temples, touching into the chakra powers, and it awakens them. It's an awakening type of a trip. It's a very powerful place, Egypt.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's where we met, John. We met in Egypt.
11 years ago.
Yeah,
yes,
that was
did.
Really great. Great event. We went to Egypt together. Over 250 people. That was...
and we became friends. We bonded and have stayed friends ever since.
That's right. It's really... it's a great place, folks. Get to go to Egypt, I'll tell you. And so when is this trip to Egypt, John?
November 6th to the 20th.
Of 93, right?
Of 93.
And to Greece? When are you going to Greece?
September 18th through October 2nd. And they both involve tours up, well, the Greece tour goes to different islands in Greece, including the Isle of Patmos, where St. John wrote the Book of Revelation.
Book of Revelations,
Right.
yeah.
So these areas represent a vortex center where people touch into their purpose and their destiny, and they go through a reawakening period during the tours. So we're really enthused about the tours, and we have excellent guides. In fact, Akbid Fayed, our Coptic Egypt tour guide, is well-renowned. He is the guide to the stars, so to speak, and as a result, he is well-known in Egypt.
Is that right?
Yeah, he gets into places where most guys don't get us into. In this particular tour, we're going to the crown chakra in Alexandria, which is quite unusual because of the fact that very few people get to Alexandria, representing the opening of the crown chakra. And we go into certain areas, one of which is the Library of Alexandria, where it used to be, and that vortex center is still very activated there. So people, of course, the purpose of the trip to Egypt is to open up all the chakra points so we can be of greater service to whoever we might be.
That's great. That sounds great. Well, to talk some more about that towards the end of the show.
Okay,
I think these trips are real exciting. I know Egypt changed my life. I've never been the same since that trip. You remember?
Your life changed dramatically.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of people's lives changed as a result of that trip.
Yeah, I think you're right, John. That was really an opening, an amazing opening.
The great part of Egypt is we stay at basically luxurious hotels and go up this cruise ship and get off the Nile and tap into these ancient centers which are still activated. So the beautiful part of the trip is the combination of the ancient and the modern civilizations, and really getting in touch with our spiritual roots, which symbolizes, of course, what Egypt is.
Well, there's a lot of reincarnated Egyptians
Yes.
in America and France, I think, right?
That's correct. Well, they come from all over the world. They converge there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of the drawing of the power of the ancient civilizations. So people go there and they meet themselves. To people's circumstances and conditions, they come face to face with themselves. That's why they go to Egypt. They think they go there on vacation, but in essence they go on a spiritual journey. And they find out that life is a journey, not a destination. And their life is transformed, and they move into the accelerated service after the trip. It's very life transforming. I've seen lives change right before my eyes. People basically dramatically change just by going through that energy.
Yeah, yeah. That temple energy is still very active, right?
Very activated, and the chakra centers, that's one thing about ancient Egypt. The centers are activated, and we go to Egypt to lend our energy to these active centers. We're not there to take, we're there to give, so other people to go through these experiences.
Well, I know the folks out there wondering, what is Coptic, John? What's the Coptic Fellowship?
Well, Coptic means Egyptian. Maybe the viewers don't know, but the first form of Christianity was basically Egyptian, actually enacted by the Egyptian pharaohs. The first Christianity was founded to lead the laws of balanced living. Their theory was that there's 25% in the physical, 25% in the mental, 25% into the emotional, and 25% in the spiritual. It was never meant to be a religion. A symbologist would call religion religioning. In other words, religions are really representations of people who come together in the same state of consciousness as a group to relive their religion, or their legion, so to speak. The original Christianity was meant to be totally spiritual, of how to follow the laws of basic living. How to eat, how to exercise, how to think positively, how to serve, how to control the emotions, how to control the five senses. It was really self-mastery training. And this whole original religion, based on the Egyptians, has splintered into many different forms of Christianity as we know today. That seed atom is split many times to create many different religions, all of which we think are good, by the way.
Yeah, you're behind all the different faiths,
We are totally in favor of all religions and philosophies.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too.
We don't feel one is better than the other.
Of course not, no. So the Coptics were the original Egyptians then. If you went back to Egypt now and met a Coptic, they may have the same bloodline as the ancient Egyptian, right? Or is,
the ancient, we're an esoteric order,
right?
Which means we're a mystical order.
Right.
But the Coptic church as we are now is a church, We are not a church. We are a philosophy of life, so to speak. We don't compete with religions. We meet at different times. We don't meet on Sundays, for example. We meet, so we don't compete with other religions. We try to encourage people to stay in their present religion, and we try to give them the more of the mystical aspect of their own religion. We are empowering them to go back and make their religion better. So as a result, we are not competing. We're seeing the good in all of them, and of course that works in terms of the travels too. So when they go to a different country, they see the religion, they see the Buddhist, and they encompass the Buddhist with the Christian comparison. So it's a universalist philosophy of life. We don't consider ourselves a religion.
Okay, so you're different from then the Coptic church that's in Egypt, right?
We started at the same.
You started at the same place.
We started at the same place, but they became exoteric. They became a church with a building, with doctrine, with dogma.
Right.
We became an esoteric, which is a more of a philosophical type of thing, which means the fact that we are a mystical, meditative, contemplated, seeking the truth within, mastering ourselves through exercise and diet and meditation, thinking lofty thoughts, thought projection, seeing the world as one family, representing a futuristic type of a trend in the future where all religions will become more one, more unified, more cooperative.
More cooperative.
This is what we're creating this small prototype, this small thought form, which will eventually, we hope, manifest in the cooperation of religions and philosophies. That's what we hope.
That's great. So, so you have lessons, or how is
lessons? We have a home study course based on the Coptic Wisdom of the Ages. We have a 49-lesson home study course where they go through the ancient Coptic, which was the White Brotherhood of Moses' time, and that name was changed at the time of Jesus to the Essene order. Essene means essence. And what viewers may not know, that John and Jesus were rebels out of the Essene community, that the Essene community thought that they were the way, the truth, and the life, and John and Jesus came along and said, we've got to take this thing public. So as a result, John and Jesus were rebels out of the Essene community to take this philosophy, this universal philosophy, forward. So as a result of this, it represented a movement into the universal perspective. And of course, that's why Jesus had 12 disciples. And Hercules represents the 1 in 12 energy. Arthur and his 12 knights all represent the 112 energy of the 12 powers of mind activated. So Jesus, again, as a messianic figure, came back and said, get in touch with your own 12 powers of mind. Here are my symbolic 12 powers of mind representing my disciples, and those disciples represent a symbolic representation of his own powers of mind. So every messianic figure comes back and says, the same old story, the dot in the middle of the circle representing the 12 disciples, the 12 powers of mind, and us individually moving into our own Christ consciousness, our own Buddha consciousness, our own Krishna consciousness. The same message over and over again.
So it's the, union with the divine, in a sense, right?
Union with the divine, but seeing all men and women as created equal, seeing all religions as one, and bringing forth world peace, world unity, and world sharing toward this movement toward unity, and seeing the good in these different religions and philosophies. That's the whole purpose of what the Coptic Fellowship represents.
Wow, that's great. Charles, could we get a close-up on this? This is an introduction, right?
This is an introduction pamphlet which explains the Coptic Fellowship.
It's got a picture of the Sphinx on the front, too, right? You see that? See that out there, folks? There, that's better that way, right? Tilt it forward. We got a bright beam of sunlight coming in here today. And who was, let's see, Hamid Bey. Here's a picture of Hamid Bey. It's the sun.
No, turn it side.
That way?
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Who was Hamid Bey, John?
Hamid Bey was taken off the streets of Cairo as a very small child, actually turned over by his parents to the Egyptian Coptic masters, and he was trained in the ancient techniques of body and mind control. And he learned the state of suspended animation. He could stick pins through his body without any pain. He could put pins in his body and blood would flow or not flow based upon the will of his mind. And up to the age of 26, where he was called, I guess at that point, to take the ancient Egyptian teachings to America. And there was a man in that country by the name of Houdini, who we're all well aware of, obviously.
Right.
And when he came here to challenge Houdini, because Houdini said there were certain things he could do that no other basic individuals could do in the world, and Hamid Bey was one of those representatives who could do it. He came to America, and he started going through these demonstrations. And when he got here, Houdini had passed away.
Is that right?
He
Yeah.
met Paramahansa Yogananda, by the way, who
Uh-huh.
founded, as we all know, Self-Realization Fellowship.
That's right.
And he and Hamid Bey traveled together. And Hamid Bey was buried alive in these public demonstrations. He wrote a book called My Experiences Preceding 5,000 Burials. And as a result of this, he came forth to found the Coptic Fellowship here in America, which he did in 1936,
Mm-hmm.
and then continued his demonstrations.
Mm-hmm.
But then he started utilizing the ancient Coptic teachings to present the laws of balanced living as we know so well. How to meditate, eat, control the physical body in a very basic way.
Mm-hmm.
So the Coptic Fellowship today is based on the foundation of the Hamid Bey teachings, and he in fact was the founder, and all of his teachings are in book form and pamphlet form, which we refer to often.
I see. Now, how did you come upon these teachings, John?
Well,
Is
my
there a story
teacher-
behind it?
Well, my teacher was Kurt Stanley, and of course I'm from Michigan.
Right.
And Kurt Stanley was the Coptic teacher in Detroit, Michigan. And I was called, I guess, in my 20s to get involved in metaphysics and parapsychology,
Mm-hmm.
and I started going to him over a period of 10 years. He was Kurt Stanley was the director of the Coptic Fellowship in the Midwest. Hamid Bey was the founder and lived in California, and periodically Hamid Bey would come to Detroit, and I would meet him,
Mm-hmm.
and this continued from about 1962 through 1972, and Kurt Stanley passed away and appointed me to be the Midwest director of the Coptic Fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hamid Bey and I became more closely affiliated,
Mm-hmm.
and we traveled back and forth between Michigan and California, and I was sponsoring his tours, his lectures, his seminars here,
Mhm.
and then in 1976 he passed away, and at that point I became the director of the Coptic Fellowship. We in turn have created in the Coptic Fellowship, which I consider a roundtable organization, where the focus is not upon one individual, but which is on a group energy, and we feel this is a very futuristic type of perspective, where the
Yeah.
energies are not focused on one, but the energies are empowered among other people in the organization, being equal to the leader of the organization, and it has worked very successfully. We've drawn a lot of strong people together as this roundtable energy, and it's worked very successfully.
Mm-hmm. So is there like here it is, world leadership training? Is that
It's
part of it?
probably one of the most important things we do as an organization, which is leadership training, where we train people to become leaders in their community.
Mm.
It's based on teaching them communication and organizational skills, where we teach them how to speak, how to communicate, how to use the media, so to speak, how to use press releases, how to basically communicate more effectively. As we know, we're in definitely a leadership age. So we teach people how to be leaders in their own community, and we've been doing this since 1985, and it's been very successful.
That's great.
We teach a course in Michigan, and we teach a course in also in Virginia
Mm-hmm.
on a 4-weekend basis.
And that's also,
This is World Service Order is an agency of the Coptic Fellowship,
okay.
and being an agency of the Coptic Fellowship, we train other leaders in their organizations too. So organizations send us their leaders to be trained, and then we train those leaders, send them back to the present organizations, and then makes their organization even stronger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So does this have a philosophical base, philosophical spiritual base?
Well, we like to think it's unique in the fact that it does not have a philosophical base.
Mhm.
That we are empowering people to be leaders in their own community for their own organizations.
For their own organizations.
So they're on. They give 10-minute talks. They give presentations. They're on VCR camera,
Mhm.
and during the course of those 4 weekends, we teach them how to open a learning center, a teaching center.
Mhm.
We teach them how to promote how to use mailing lists, how to put a brochure together, how to come forth with their unique talent, because we think that the common person has to be empowered. And therefore, going to the base of the common person is where we think the power is. So if we train people from the base of where they represent and symbolize in their communities, we think they'll become stronger, their families will become stronger, their organizations will become stronger, their businesses will become stronger, because they'll develop more self-confidence in themselves. So we have a northern course and a southern course, and it's very reasonable, the cost of it. And people come in from all parts of the country to take part of the course. Even though the courses are small, many people have gone out after the course to start their own centers, create their own organizations, and gone back and made their own organization stronger as a result of the course. We feel very enthused about this.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a very good thing.
Well, it is a good thing because it helps people to communicate better.
Makes better citizens, too, right?
Well, it's
all the
just
way for the
taking
whole world,
power
right?
back to the common person. That's where we
Yeah.
think the trend is.
Yeah.
It's the empowerment of the common person that we hope humanity is going toward.
Definitely. So what is the, what's the spiritual unity of nations? The Sun, the S-U-N.
Spiritual nations is based on the premise that we all are to become suns, S-U-Ns. And that sun energy is the energy of the 90s. We think that the laws of the 80s have changed in the laws of the 90s, and moving from a war type of economy into a peaceful type of economy, moving more from the mind into the heart will create suns, whereby this sun energy is an outgoing energy. It's an energy whereby the power of the sun, namely to shine upon a head of state as well as a prisoner in the prisoner yard, this kind of a cast your bread upon the water and expect nothing back, this concept of the magnificent obsession, this feeling of moving in the world and serving others without any thought of self. This whole concept of the sun energy is based on an individual, group, and eventually a planetary way of projecting a sun type of consciousness. We feel that we are just one of many organizations that are trying to bring forth a cooperative effort on a very small scale and representing a prototype for that. So we have conferences all over the country. We have one in North Carolina in April.
I see.
But also, we also sponsor tours, too. The Greek tour is also sponsored by Spiritual Unity of Nations. So we conduct tours, we conduct workshops, we conduct seminars and conferences of trying to bring religions in more of a closer harmony. Again, trying to look at different religions and philosophies as more of an equal type of thing rather than a better than type of attitude. You can see the intertwining of the different organizations we represent are all based on the concept of the world as one family. That futuristic concept of seeing this family feeling coming forth, where we will see nations that will be sharing openly their natural resources, where there will be no lack, there will be no illusion the fact that we have to have lack in the world. So these are all futuristic organizations that are trying to find their way into the common person arena.
Sounds good, John. Sounds like you're doing a lot of good work here. A lot of good work. So let's get into the numerology part of your life. I know
Numerology
that's
part of my life.
that's a big love of your life. I know.
Numerology.
So there are many different schools of numerology, right? And what's the difference, John, between Pythagorean and Chaldean? Those are two.
Well,
What are those the two prominent
well, there are many phases of numerology. First of all, the science of numerology was lost in the Library of Alexandria.
It was
It was
lost.
destroyed. Yeah, when Caesar invaded Egypt, it was destroyed. And since that time, from the inner realms, the science is coming back. I like to call the Chaldean eliminates the 9 aspect of numerology, and the 9 aspect of numerology is the aspect of the sun, serving, giving, selflessness, all that energy. So the Chaldean is based on 1 to 8. The Pythagorean is based on 1 to 9. So the Chaldean eliminates number 9, which I think eliminates that ninth aspect symbolized by the 1990s. And the 1990s, by the way, is symbolized by the end of 3 cycles: the Kali Yuga of 10,000 years, the Piscean Age of 2,600 years, and also the ending of a century, which is the 1900s. So in one small decade, it represents endings, and it represents also the empowerment of the person whose attitude is towards service, and selflessness, and giving. That's why businesses who operate according to the selfless, giving, tithing type of attitude will be very prosperous. Those businesses are still into strictly business for money's sake, will find themselves less than successful. So those businesses who are really into helping the homeless, helping charitable organizations, giving, will be very, very successful. So what we do in my readings, and I know you do with your astrology readings, we try to bring people into the attitude and the philosophy of the 1990s. In January 1st, 1990, there was definitely an attitude and an energy change as people started entering into the 1990s and finding things changed. Why? Because the laws of the 90s are different than the laws of the 80s. That's why the laws of the 80s were very affluent, very material, very power-oriented, and we find now we're trying to find what are the laws of the 90s. So the empowerment of numerology and astrology and any of these sciences help people to come into their own power by realizing the laws have changed in the 90s. So the Pythagorean is a very all-encompassing science, and it represents the empowerment of the individual to tune him or her into their life script.
So you're a Pythagorean then,
I'm
right?
a Pythagorean.
You've looked at the...
I looked at the Chaldean, which is fine. The Chaldean is fine. But the
But the
Pythagorean adds the altruism and the selflessness to the readings.
Why do you think they left the 9 out? Is there
I think Chaldean was before Pythagoras. I think Pythagorean just added the capstone to the Chaldean way of doing things.
So they counted in 8s before Pythagoras, huh?
It's just the difference between the 1980s and the 1990s. Why humanity is trying to adapt into the 9 energy of selflessness and altruism is the same difference between Chaldean and also Pythagorean. It adds another dimension.
Interesting.
So the 90s represents endings and learning to be sons. That's the key.
Beginning as sons, right? It's an ending and a
Beginning as
beginning.
sons and the ending of the male-dominated Piscean age, which is in fact a male-dominated age, moving into the Aquarian, which is the Sphinx on the cover here, which is the head of the woman in the face of the man. The balance of the masculine and the feminine is, in essence, what the Aquarian age is all about.
Yeah, we do have to come together, both of us, the males and the females.
Well, within ourselves.
Within ourselves. And
The feminine aspect has to be activated, the heart has to come forth, and then the balance with the mind. The lion of the mind lying down with the lamb of the heart. That's the balance of the male-female energy that's happening in the world today.
That's really exciting. And that's true. So what do you make of these, groups that are splintering off now? There's the feminists are splintering off, and then there are these groups of men that are splintering off. Are they denying that
No, I think some
the
people
masculine
are,
and the feminists
since
are...
we each have a different balance of our masculine and feminine, those that are going off in the male direction are trying to regain their power that they've given away in past lives. Those that are into the feminine are trying to regain their nurturing, caring, loving natures. So it's basically each of us are in different balance of our male and female energies, and this balance is represented by these different groups going off and trying to energize the male and the female, where in essence it's just an inner process of balance, the laws of balance. The Libra sign is really the balance of the male and female that these groups are going through.
Well, what about the... you can talk about the numbers of America.
Well, the numbers of America, of course, the United States was founded on the basis of the Masons.
Right.
And much of the founding of the United States was based on the numerology analysis of Thomas Jefferson. And Jefferson had the foresight to realize that there was a specific day the United States was supposed to be founded, which is a pure 7-4 energy. And that pure 7-4 energy is symbolized, and the 7-4 energy is symbolized by the word Messiah. which the vibration is 7-4. So obviously the founders of our country wanted to create a messianic nation. So Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence on July 2nd, waited till July 4th to birth the United States. And what he did is he took it into the 32nd level of Masonry. And the 32nd level of Masonry is the feminine aspect of communication brought into ultimate freedom. So what he was trying to do is to bring forth the communication of the feminine, bringing into the freedom of the United States, which was symbolized by July 4th, 1776, which was a 32 energy. Now, if he would have waited one more day, July 5th, he would have moved into the 33rd level of Masonry, which would have brought more of a responsible aspect to the government. But we were so much into freedom that he kept it on the 32nd level.
Isn't that interesting?
To show you the power of numbers,
Yeah.
every cycle of a numbers represents 81 years. So if you take 1776 plus 81 years, you come to 1857. And 3 years after 1857, we entered into the Civil War. That's one life of the United States. So every 81 years, an individual or a nation goes through a shift. So as an individual, we see people over 81 reverting back to their childhood. That's only because they're starting to relive their life all over again. Now we look at the United States. They end one 81-year cycle that enters into the Civil War because they didn't know how to handle slavery. So the founders of our country didn't walk their talk. They talked about all men are created equal, but Jefferson kept his slaves. So we had to go back, and after one 81-year cycle, we had to go back into the all men are created equal. Add 81 years to 1857, you have 1938. We'd still not gotten through that war-like attitude created by the Civil War. We entered in the Second World War. It just really indicates the power of the numbers representing this 81-year cycle that each country goes through.
So what's the next cycle? When's that come in?
Well, it ends in 81 would be 2039. Will be 39 years into the millennium of the woman, starting in the year 2000. So we're into 8 years of getting rid of this century, which is dominated by the male. So the number 19, representing 1900, is the old Roman gladiator persona. In the old days, the gladiator used to go in the arena, and he had a choice of two doors. He didn't know which was which, but he chose the one door. A woman came out, and he spent some time with a woman. The other door was a tiger. If he chose the tiger, the tiger devoured him. In the 1900s, there's a conscious choice that takes place in the 1900s, where an individual, a nation, and the human family makes a choice. They can either choose the woman and arouse and empower the woman within themselves, that feminine nurturing energy, or if they choose the other door, then that door is the tiger, which will devour them. In other words, back to the old masculine dominating ways. That's why we have the Hitlers, the Mussolinis, the Saddam Husseins that come up and say, this is not the way to do it. This is not the way to deal with power. So those are symbols, and those male leaders come up and say, and basically humanity says, we don't want this anymore, which means we're coming into our own femininity. When we come in the year 2000, we have 1,000th power of the woman coming into a manifestation for a millennium of 1,000 years. So everything that's happening on the planet now is bringing forth the power of the woman into more active manifestation.
Wow.
Of minimizing the male aspect and coming into our own femininity. That's what's happening in the 1990s. So you see these dictators coming forth as a symbol of not the way to do things. So we're moving into our own femininity. Whether we be male or female, this is not a sexist issue. It's an attribute issue.
Right.
When we're nurturing, caring, and selflessly giving, we have this kind of true empowerment, and our life is full of joy and happiness and success. We go back to our old male domination ways. Either as an individual, group, or nation, we fall back in the misuse of power once again. So that's a little bit about numerology on an individual basis and also a planetary level.
Oh, that's fascinating. So, so you wrote a book, I remember, back in 1981. What was it called, John?
It's called Messiah and the Second Coming.
And what is that? What was it?
It was based on an event that took place on November 11th of 1949,
Mm-hmm.
where Hamid Bey, the founder of the Coptic Fellowship, was brought to I'll tell you the story in a very short, concise form. He was lecturing on November 10th. No, it was November 9th in Chicago, and he was given a telegram that he was supposed to catch this plane to California after his lecture series ended. He didn't know why he was catching the plane, but he did.
Yeah.
He caught the plane, he flew into San Francisco, it was fogged in, he flew into Redding, California, and he got off the plane. He intuitively knew he was supposed to be there. He didn't know what he was supposed to be there for. He stayed in Redding, California overnight. The next day, he and 21 other individuals, all men, were transported to a remote part of Mount Shasta, California. Around 11 o'clock a.m., they were seated in a half-moon position, 22 men in this ISIS half-moon position.
Right.
At around 11 a.m., a UFO landed.
Holy mackerel.
A woman came out of the woods holding 2 babies, and they were told that this was an introduction of a new energy upon Earth, and this would represent and symbolize a new beginning, a new initiation, a new process for the planet on that moment, which was 11 o'clock a.m., November 11th, 1949, which you have analyzed through your astrology.
Right.
They were told this was the birth of the new Messiah. After looking at it symbolically, I think it represents and symbolizes the beginning of a group avatar energy where they created a blueprint, a spiritual or mental blueprint, where an individual, through self-mastery training, through following meditative techniques and procedures of selfless service, will move into a group avatar perspective over a period of their lifetime. Also, something interesting that came forth, the San Andreas Fault, which was very weakened at that time.
Yeah.
They also felt that happening took place because of the fact that that San Andreas Fault had to be strengthened. So they had created an event from the inner planes to heal that San Andreas Fault. I think that was another reason why that happened. Now, Hamid Bey so believed in this event in November of 1949 that he had a birthday celebration on November 11th, all the way every year
Till his
until he
death.
passed in 1976.
Isn't that interesting?
And a woman by the name of Solara has also come forth with some information about the 1111 energy, and it represents a very futuristic concept of these ideals and concepts. 11 represents the visionary. The 11 represents the futuristic view of humanity. All of these energies dealing with a futuristic vision of the world as one family again, trying to bring forth this energy in more of an active reality. So in 1981, I wrote the book on the event and have tried to bring forth this energy in a small way.
So everything can be divided down to numbers, right? There's a number.
Everything can be divided. It's all symbolic representations of numbers. So every number, the number's not important. It's what the number means.
The symbol.
The letter of the name is not important. It's where it falls in the sequence. So every language has the sequence of the numbers, and this can be analyzed. I call my readings more esoteric psychology. I call the readings dealing with life scripts. That everybody is the producer, the director, the stage manager, and the main player in their play of life. And as a result of this, these readings tap into what they're supposed to be doing with their lives.
Interesting. So what would today be, the numerology on today, John? 124, 91,
Right, you want me to do a
93.
little reading on today?
Yeah. Just to show the folks, give the folks an idea. Yeah. By the way, folks, if you want to call in here, you have some questions, you want to speak to John or myself, the number's 212-695-8583. That line will ring right here in the studio, and we'll be able to talk to you. And of course, don't forget the 900 number above me on the screen, 1-900-884-7297. That's a 24-hour psychic hotline number. There's psychics working that numbers 24 hours a day. That's $2.99 a minute. You must be over the age of 18, and that's for entertainment purposes only.
Well, if I were, analyzing somebody who was starting a business on this day, and what we do is we analyze names and dates of birth, and also when to incorporate a business and what to name a business is all based on certain energies.
Mm-hmm.
This day would be a day of not scattering energies. It would be a day of then we have that 11 energy of the visionary coming forth with ideas and concepts. And of course, the whole year of 1993 represents the 112 principle, and that 112 principle is that principle which is the creative aspect on every level of creation. And I have some information on that based on the personal and planetary change in the year 1993. Every 100 years, this year is there. This 112 principle goes back to Jesus and his 12 disciples. Goes back to Hercules and his 12 labors, Arthur and his 12 knights, the 12 powers of mind. So a lot of change, a lot of creative change can take place this year, in the year 1993. So it's a year we've been waiting for, symbolic for a long time.
For quite a long time. When was the last time we had a year like this?
1894 was the
Is
last
that
time
right?
we had it.
1894.
And I'm not sure what exactly happened in 1894, but I know the 112 principle of the laws of creation. But in these months, we can focalize on these.
You have special dates here, right, for the people
We
that
have
focus?
special dates. It's the focus for personal and planetary change. The months of January, the focus is on expansion of individual communication. The month of February is on female empowerment. The month of March is on individual freedom. The month of April is on practical application of service to humanity. The month of May is on expansion of New Age ideas. June is increased responsibility for expanded world prosperity. July is mystical application of altruistic ideas. August is better leadership on all levels of world society. September is a master builder promotion of expanding the feminine role in society. October is the capstone achievement for empowering a common person. November is the power to the oppressed and the underprivileged, and December is the authority for the group avatar on Earth. Now that is based on symbolic representations of the month, and also the kind of thought projection to create this blueprint for this empowerment to take place of the individual, the group, and the nation on a planetary level.
So this is really taking advantage of extraordinary energies that are taking place in 1993.
It's taking,
that hasn't happened since 1894, right?
Taking advantage of the energies that are present in 1993. It's like going into a voting booth and pulling the voting booth. But it's on the inner planes. It's on the mental planes. It's on the spiritual planes. But the inner planes need our thoughts, our ideas, our concepts, our words to manifest these ideas and goals. So if we can concentrate and focus upon the empowerment of the person and the group, nation, and planet, seeing this as a positive revelation for this year, we are touching into the powers of the inner planes to help bring this forth. So this type of thing has been put into different publications of trying to bring forth an awareness that the common person has a right through his thoughts, his prayers, his ideas, his concepts, to bring this forth into reality.
All right, so if someone wanted to get this this list from you, John, how could they get in touch with you?
Well, they can...
Just sliding off the screen here.
Sliding off the screen, excuse me.
Don't lose you there, John.
The phone number, 616-531-1339. They can call in. I'll be happy to send them information. Actually, a packet on Coptic and Son and basically everything that we represent here.
Okay.
And also to sign up and to get possibly some more information on the leadership training course, which we are holding starting in September of next year.
So
in
it's
both Michigan and Florida.
So that's
1-6-531.
Wait a minute, wait. What is the area code?
It's a Michigan phone number. 616.
Right.
531
531
13
13
39.
39. They should leave their name and address on the...
Yeah, we can send them a packet of information on the concepts and the ideals that we are presenting, and also
All right.
maybe get some information on leadership training course.
That's great, John. That's really good. So, so folks, give us a call here at Satellite Psychic. I'm your host here, Reverend Bill Kern. We have with us a really noted numerologist, spiritual numerologist, John Davis, who has a lot of experience, can really help you out with your numbers. 212-695-8583. Feel free to call in, folks. Don't be shy. John can give you a really good analysis of your number. Now, is it your birth date or is it the number of your name
Your
or
name, the exact name on your date of birth,
Right.
and your date of birth. So it's the first, middle, and last name of the name, and also the date of birth.
What are the three names symbolize? The
First name is the physical name, how the person relates in the physical level. The middle name is the mental and emotional nature, how the individual thinks and feels.
Mhm.
And the third name is the spiritual lineage of the individual.
Now, what if some people don't have a middle name or don't even have
Well,
a first name or last? They just have one name. My name is, you know, Omar or something. You know,
it means that their lessons are more prevalent. It's a tougher life. It's a stronger.
it's tougher
karmic life.
if you take on one name like that, right?
If you take on one name, a few letters in the name, you're working off a lot of lifetimes in one lifetime. So it's a very cram 3 lifetimes into one,
I see.
so to speak.
I see. In your work, do you find most people have middle names, or
Most people have middle names. Yeah, most people like to work off their karma over a period of lifetimes rather than cram it all into one life.
And how do you think people get names? You know, I know
Well, they name
my
them.
parents named me, but
They name themselves.
You think, yeah?
They're overlaying their mother in their 8th or 9th month of pregnancy into thought transference they place in their person who names them their name. And their name represents the talents and abilities they bring in their life. And so their name is their life script. It's what they were doing in past lifetimes. And their year of birth is their passion play through which their talents and abilities will manifest.
so what about a junior or a triple or, you know, the fourth
Well, it
or
just
numbers
means that-
after the name? Does that mean anything?
They just follow the pattern of their fathers. That basically, since they've come directly with their father's name, they've had very, very similar experiences with their father. So the junior or the third or the fourth, whatever, really doesn't mean much. It just means that the father's life is a mirror, and since life is a mirror of what we go through in our lives, this patterning here is very strongly linked to the father.
What would you say? Like my father's a Taurus and I'm a Sag, and they're certainly not the same, but we have the same name, but I have the junior. So how does that manifest in the numerology? It's the date, right? The date that I was born?
Well, that's right, the day you were born. And when you look at your father, he represents a symbolic representation of you. He's very, very strongly a mirror of you, as you are a mirror of him. So you learn from him. He represented light seeds that were placed in your consciousness as a very young child, and which have grown into the mature Bliem Kern.
So what? Okay, let me ask you this now. What is the numbers of birth signify? Like the month, the day, and the year? Do they signify different things? Like you broke up the name into
Well, the
different.
month represents the first 27 years. It's like Linus in the comic strip that has that little cloud over his head. It's
Yeah.
really a number, a symbol, a magnet that draws the lessons, the people, circumstances, and conditions. So if a person was born in April, for the first 27 years, he would represent the 4, which would be hard work and dedication and dealing with details. And for 27 years, that month of birth is overlying the individual. And then from 28 through 54 would be the day. The day would represent a new number,
Is that interesting?
representing and symbolizing people, circumstances, and conditions coming into their life. So the first 27 years is the youth cycle. The second 27 years is the power cycle, and the third 27 years is from 55 through 81 is the wisdom cycle.
So would you include the 19 in that? Like someone's
Sure.
born 1925?
Sure.
It's
They
not
just
just
say,
25, it's 1925.
Your birthday is,
Mine is 11/24/43.
so you put the 11, 24, what year?
43.
1943, and
I'm an old man, folks. Not
we added
that
up
old,
8,
though.
9, 18. Let's see. We had the 1, the 2, the 4, the 1, 9, 4, 3, and get my glasses out here.
Yeah, see,
4, 8, 9, 18, 22, and 3 is 25.
25.
You are 7
So I'm
destiny.
25, folks.
You know, you and I have exactly the same.
I'm not surprised,
Exactly
John.
the same destiny.
I'm not
sir.
surprised.
25, which is the freedom of the feminine aspect of ourselves leading into the illumined intellect. That is your destiny. That is what you are here to do, and this is what I'm here to do.
Well, you talk about 81. We met in 1981. You talking about the 81-year cycle of America? That's we met in 1981, right?
Yeah.
In Egypt. Well, actually, we met in Kennedy Airport.
We've been in Kennedy Airport. That's right.
That's where we gathered before we went to Egypt.
That's right.
We met in Kennedy Airport.
250 strong.
Yeah, it was some. God, it was some trip, huh?
Yeah, it really was something.
That was a great trip, folks. I'll tell you. That sure blew my socks off.
Well, it just indicates that you're into metaphysics, you're into parapsychology, you're into the new, the cutting edge. The 7 is the illumined intellect,
Right.
the number of metaphysics, parapsychology. That's what it's into. That's what you're into this life, is what the show represents and symbolizes, right?
Definitely, yeah. Definitely. So, folks, give us a call here, 212-695-8583. Let's get a little interaction here with the audience out there, folks. Don't be shy. Don't let this patch shake you up, folks. I'll have it off in a few days. My eye's coming back. I just can't take it out yet. Got a new lens put in there. I was on the table for a full hour. It was only supposed to be 20 minutes, but the doctor had to work on me a little extra long. Interesting experience, folks. I highly recommend it. If any of you folks out there have a cataract, don't be shy. Go get it taken care of, folks. You'll be glad you did. I can already see better than I did before, but it's still not. Be a couple days yet.
But you sure feeling better now, aren't you?
Oh. Yeah, well, you know, anyone sticks a knife in your eye, you know, you're going to feel kind of lousy for a few days. That's why I wasn't around, folks, on Thursday and Friday. We didn't have any show. I think they're running tapes here in place of the show. But that, you know, I had to rest. That's what I needed to do. So, so numerology. So, what about like someone's address, like where they live?
It's all based on the vibration of where they live. The telephone number,
Telephone number too, huh?
their address, are all symbolic of what they represent and symbolize in their lives. So it all tells a story of the symbols of life. So it's so numerology would represent a simple way to reflect somebody's destiny of why they're here, and it's all based on the law of attraction. Each person, being an electromagnetic force field, draws to themselves what they need to learn at that particular given point of time.
So you're looking at the symbols, looking at life in a symbolic fashion. That's what astrology is too, is looking at the symbols. It's symbolic. It's not really a cause and effect. Numbers don't make you do things. You just come in with certain numbers, and you have synchronistic events in your life where you have the
Life
certain
unfolds
numbers.
every 9 years. Life goes through a process.
Is that right? Oh, tell us about that. There's a.
Well, that's why a child takes 9 months to be conceived.
Uh-huh.
In fact, at 1 through 9, a person goes through their changes. In their 9th year, they go through a change. If they're on their superhighway of life, then the changes are very minimal. But they will go through, the 9 year represents release and forgiveness of what has transpired in their life. They stand on this 9 personal year, and they plow up their field in terms of waiting for this new beginning, in their 1 personal year, where they put on a new coat for a period of 9 years, where this process, this evolutionary process, comes forth of 1 through 9, and then that next year they get into the creating their goals. They stand with a farmer in the field planting their seeds, and they plant those seeds, their physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and their financial seeds of what they want to accomplish with their life. So what we do with the reading is we break down these turning points, and what I do with the reading is try and focus into this change, this basic 9-year change, and then that following 9-year time period is a time of new beginnings for them.
Well, the only thing in astrology that would come close to the 9-year cycle would be the nodal axis, which is where the moon crosses the ecliptic. It's a total 18-year cycle for the node to make a complete cycle
So
around.
with numerology, it'd be a double 9-year cycle.
So half of the node would be the 9.
Yeah.
So that's a
So everything is accelerated through during those 9-year cycles. So everything is based on the Kabbalistic 27. 27 years for youth, the next 27 years to the power manifestation, and then 27 more years from age 55 to the age of 81.
Oh, you know, Buddha did his renunciation when he was 28 on his Saturn return. You know, Saturn comes in every 28 and a half years or so. When Saturn comes around the place, it's when you're born, is when you have your greatest challenge in the beginning of your life. It's where you go through a major maturation process. And Buddha, when he was 28, he had his chariot driver take him out of the city, the castle, the palace that he'd been living in. He was married and he had a child, into the city to see what it was like in the city. And he was so shocked by what he saw in the city, the suffering of humanity, the poverty, the homeless, the sick, the afflicted. He was so shocked by that, he decided that he had to do something about that. And he came back and went into renunciation. He gave up, said goodbye to his wife and his child, and he went out to meditate under the Bodhi tree and to travel. And that's where he came up with his teachings.
So that is the same thing as Saturn return, or as the 28 year.
Which is very close to your 27-year cycle.
Right.
So,
So 28th is no beginning for this 27-year cycle.
That's fantastic. So, so how does one figure out what year they're in? You know, if your personal
Well,
years.
you
Is
add
it
your,
a difficult mathematical?
You add your
Here.
you add your month of birth
Your month, the month that you're born,
to the day of birth
to the date you were born, to the day you were born.
to the present year,
So-
which is 1993. So 1 and 9 and 9 and 3.
It's 18, 19, 21, 22, right?
22.
It's
or
a 22 year then, huh?
22 year. So we have the month with you,
It's 11, yeah.
24.
You folks do this out there. If you have any questions, call in here. We're learning something here, folks. 1 and 1 is
So-
2, 6.
2, 6, 4, 8, 4 is 12. 3, you're in a 3 personal year, which, by the way, is good for the show. Which is good if you, it's basically good for communication. It's good for your business, since you're into doing astrology charts.
Astrology, right.
And you're into communications. And so all this can be 1 year from November 24th of 92 to 93. You are in your personal year,
My 3 personal year.
and it's a good year. It's a lighter year. But
So-
in your 1 personal year, 2 years ago, you made some important decisions in your life of what.
Well, 2
direction
years
life
ago
was
is when
gonna go.
I was ordained, 1990, June 1990.
Well, see that you made a decision of that ordination of what your life path was going to be at that particular time. Last year you nurtured it. Now you're expressing it. Next year you're going to ground it. The next year you're going to become more freedom-oriented with it, and so forth. It goes over a 9-year period. But you made some important decisions that year, very important decisions.
It's true. It's very interesting.
So now you're basically expressing what you decided to do 2 years ago. So all this can be broken down. This is what I do during my readings: is go
Right.
into this. Each letter of the name also represents a talent. Certain letters are more important than other letters, of course, but it's not necessarily the letter is important. It's what the letter represents and symbolizes and is focused upon.
So really, it's a window that's being opened, right?
Well, what's a life script, basically?
Yeah,
A life script
yeah.
where somebody has this information in front of them, and they listen to the tape or read the book, or as they do with your astrology, it represents a life script that everybody gets in touch with sometime during the course of their life. Goes to a reader or an analyzer, and they come up with their prospectus of what their life is basically all about.
It's interesting. Well, folks, so we're going to take a break, a few-minute break here, and Charles, I don't know what you want to run an ad or something. And we'll come back and we'll be taking calls, folks, and doing your numerology for you and giving you some real exciting insights into your life. John really knows his onions. Onions and your tomatoes too, right? Onions, and you gotta have the tomatoes to make a good pasta sauce, right? Yeah. Onions and tomatoes. So folks, this is Satellite Psychic. I'm your host, Reverend Bill Kern. We have with us John Davis. We're going to take a break now. We'll be back in a few minutes, folks. So run to the refrigerator and get your telephone. Ever keep your telephones in the refrigerator? Well, give us a call, folks. We'll be back in a few minutes. Bye-bye.
Well,
First hour was great.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I know we usually stay for a show.
we just have not had.
There's a lot to it.
A lot of people getting information now, you know?
Yeah, they're taking it in.
Yeah, so just call in.
Why aren't we getting the calls, sir? What are we going to do?
No, it doesn't mean, when they're not calling, they're listening. There are a lot of people out there listening, John. I mean, you're giving so much information. They're like mesmerized. They'd rather hear you talk than to interrupt. That's a compliment.
This is not a.
We'll get a few calls.
Maybe our friend from last night will call.
Yeah, well.
Usually somebody, this is so excellent on the radio because people are listening. And why wouldn't somebody want a free gift?
Yeah, they usually like to listen for the information, and then you never stress the call about the last 15 minutes. You know,
Yeah.
now you state we've gotten the information taken care of now. Call in and let's see
Yeah,
what's
they'll
up.
call in. They'll call in. But I wanted to, give us time to give the information, John. I want to talk about your Revelation, Book of Revelations. I want to talk about the numbers of Abe Lincoln, the numbers of Bill Clinton.
Oh, I better get the numbers of Bill Clinton out here. Want me to
The
get?
lighting's perfect, so.
Hmm?
The lighting's perfect. I mean,
Did it come out good, Chaz? Yeah?
excuse me?
Did it come out good,
You
Chaz?
looking at it?
I don't,
You look at the screen. It's perfect.
I didn't really look, to be honest with you.
No?
No. One time I looked over, I saw him sliding off the show. See, this is a commercial for me. Wish I could get a copy of that. I want to just tear this thing off my eye, man, I'll tell you. It's uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to be a Popeye character.
10 seconds. Go.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Satellite Psychic. I'm your host, Reverend Bill Kern. This is the second portion of our show. We have with us today a very noted numerologist, John Davis. He's in from Michigan. You folks in Michigan don't know what you got out there. You ought to get in touch with John. Anybody ought to get in touch with John. He really does know his numbers. We've been talking for the first hour, talking a lot about numerology and what the work that John does. But we'd like you folks to give us a call here. And John can analyze your numbers and tell you a lot of things about yourself. And if you have any questions, feel free to call in, folks. It's time to get off that couch there. No more couch potatoes. 212-695-8583. That's 212-695-8583. And don't forget the 900 number above us on the screen, 1-900-884-7297. That's a 24-hour psychic hotline number. And that number is going 24 hours a day. It's $2.99 a minute. You must be over the age of 18. Use that number. And it's for entertainment purposes only.
Buy one.
Hello, caller.
Hi,
Who do we got here?
Marlene.
Arlene? Okay, how do you spell your name, Arlene?
Marlene.
And what's your birthday?
February 24th, 34.
Where are you calling from?
Florida.
Florida. What's your question for John?
Well, I like to see if my life is getting any better, since I'm probably going to lose my job next week.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You sure about that?
Yep. Oh, by the way, you don't have your telephone number on the screen either.
Yeah, that's right. It's not on there. What happened to that, Charles?
No, go for it.
Your name is Marlene, M-A-R-L-E-N-E.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Marlene, your life lesson is dealing with money and finances. So regardless of what happens with your job, I don't think it's going to be for very long. And you come into this life coming from independence and freedom into responsibility. This is a very responsible life for you. I don't know if you knew it or not, but past lives you were a master communicator. When you spoke, people listened. You had a lot of power to manifest. One thing you did do, you had a lot of, you misused freedom for freedom's sake. You're a very strong male. You've had a lot more lifetimes as a man than you have been a woman. You have a hard time being number two. It's very important for you to express your emotions this life because you've had a hard time doing that. It's really afraid of the fact that your emotional nature is such that you're kind of afraid of being number two. You come from a male, recent past life, and you jump right into a female form. So it's very important for you to be very, very feminine, very nurturing, very caring as a woman. And a woman is a gender, and there's also a quality. And in this life, it's very important for you to meditate. You have to learn to be alone and not lonely, because of the fact that you're into the fact you got to learn to live with yourself, and don't be too hard on yourself. You whip yourself pretty good. You got to love yourself a lot more, and be sure to deal with those details in your life, and balance checkbooks and all those little itty bitty things. But in the last life, you were a very strong, dominant male, and what you did was you delegated a lot of your own responsibilities. This is a very, very responsible life, and it's very, very feminine and very, very nurturing, and this mother energy is very, very important to you. So you have you're coming into the illumined intellect. So I would block off time where you can meditate, because you've got to get into yourself, and this is why you're watching the show. I know the host here is a meditator, and you should become a meditator and spend a lot of time within you, because that is really what your destiny is.
Well, is my situation going to get any better?
Yeah, it's going to get better. It's definitely going to get better. And you just have to keep on thinking positive thoughts and keep yourself very focused and very, very grounded, and keep yourself very positive, as things will be changing for you. Your attitude is very important. Now, maybe for this time you're going to be having is for you to start meditating more. First thing, get up in the morning, because this destiny of yours is very, very directed toward meditation, and very much learning to be alone and not lonely. And maybe the short time you're going to be out of work, because I don't think it'll be very long, will give you a time to get in touch with yourself.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Marlene. Bye-bye. Hello, caller.
Hi, how you doing?
Who we got here?
Tom from New York?
Hi, Tom.
Thomas?
Yeah,
What's your middle name, Thomas? Or Tom?
Charles.
Pardon?
Middle name is Charles.
Charles? And your date of birth, Tom?
April 16th, 52.
Tom, this is a life of really getting in touch with your feminine nature. You've got to really to really get into your heart and your feeling nature. You are really into your higher consciousness, learning to be alone and not lonely, really into your lumen intellect. In past lifetimes, you did not have a lot of success in the marital situation, and you have to be very careful with your sexual energies this life. You have to keep really devoted to your main squeeze, to be very loyal to her, and not to wander off as you did in other lifetimes. You come from independence and freedom into responsibility. You are a very responsible person with a terrific personality. You've had a tremendous amount of money in past lifetimes, a lot of money, And this lifetime, you're here to balance your masculine and your feminine. You've been a man many times, but coming into your own femininity, you're very strongly, your heart energy is very important. You're also a futuristic communicator in past lives. You were out there promoting these ideas and concepts like our friend here. And as a result of that, when you stood up, 10 people told you to sit down. So as a younger man, you were very shy. You did not want to come out with your true self. But the name Charles, which represents communication and service and this wonderful personality you have to come out and be who you are, which is a balance of the introvert and the extrovert, the balance of freedom and responsibility. But you really have a terrific personality. You also have this balance of this masculine feminine is very, very strong in this life. This life is very intense for you. Your lessons are very intense. The Thomas energy has a lot of emotion and feeling and power in it. And it's very important for you to keep your mind focused upon the service of others. Do you have any?
Trying to decide whether to change jobs or not. Anything there that for insight?
Let's see here. First of all, the basics is don't change jobs until you have another one. That's the first law of changing jobs. It goes back to my old personnel work when I was a personnel manager in my 20s. So be very careful in terms of making sure you have a job before you make a change. If you're going to make a change, make it before April, because now you're in a change-oriented year. You're in a change year where you can make changes. So if you want to send out your resume and let people know that you are available for your new job, if it's there for you, I take questions like this very practically. To get a nice resume together, send it out very discriminately, and if job offers come to you, it's time for you to make a change. And between now and April is that time. If it's meant to be, that job will be offered to you. If you've not learned your lessons where you are in your present job, then the job will not be offered to you. So be very careful about making that decision between now and April, because if you do, I think you'll be very, very pleasantly surprised. Remember, if the lessons are not learned in this job, you'll stay close to the vest here with this present job.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, folks, the number is 212-695-8583. Feel free to call in with your questions, folks. That's 212-695-8583. So what kind of numbers did Bill Clinton have this year, John?
Well, I happen to have this information in front of me. I knew you were going to ask this question.
Yeah, well.
And Mr. Clinton, and Bill has not called me for his reading, by the way. He's not called me yet.
Hasn't called you yet.
He's not
well,
called me yet.
He'll give you a call, I'm sure he will. Yeah.
But since his name is public domain, I will be chatting about Mr. Blythe, because that's his name. His name is not Clinton, his name is Blythe. Mr. Clinton has had all the experiences in past lifetimes. He's been on this path of life for many, many lives.
Right.
And Will.I.Am is a very freedom-oriented person. He does a rapid turnover of people, circumstances, or conditions to keep him interested. His choice is the I of I and me, or the you and we. So if the you and we people who are very successful in the presidency, and since he is a Leo, he has to be very concerned about whether his attention is on him or is on the attention of other people.
All right.
This is...
Can we come back this? We got
sure.
to take these
Sure
calls, all right?
Sure can.
Hello, caller.
Hello, Reverend Bill.
Who we got here?
This is your old pal Ned out in California.
Hiya, Ned. How you been?
All right. I didn't know about your surgery, but I'm glad you're returning to normal.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Captain Hook, Charles says.
And listen, would you please apologize to Bill Clinton for me for interrupting his reading?
Well, I'm sure he can deal with it, I think, you know. Hey.
I'd like to have the gentleman give me a rundown there.
I'll be happy to.
One question I'd like to have answered in it. I'd like to find out why I have such an intense interest in things like numerology and astrology and palmistry and so forth, especially when I'm just beginning to get interested in them. My birthday is 3/31/27, and my name is Ned Lanier, L-A-N-E-E-R.
L-A-N what?
Double E.
Lanier? Laneer, okay.
McMurray, McMurray.
Well, one thing I have as I'm doing this is the fact that you have been a very strong, dominant male in other lifetimes. You have been a very strong leader who misused his power in another life. You have to be very concerned about how you handle power this life. You have been a kind of leader that had a tremendous amount of freedom. You were very much in for freedom's sake. You need a rapid turnover of people, circumstances, and conditions to keep you interested. You were very, very change-oriented, very multidimensional and multifaceted. You are also the kind of person who is a very giving, selfless individual. And this is to be emphasized this life, Ned, to really get in touch with your altruism and your selflessness. That's the empowerment of the word. You were told, how am I going to stop scattering my energies this life, as you reviewed your past lives before this life, because you were so much into freedom, and you were told to be a very giving, selfless person who was always interested in the other person more than himself. You've always been number one and never number two. You've been in what we call a dominated syndrome. One lifetime you're the dominator, then you're the dominated. You have been a very active religious leader in past lifetimes, a tremendous communicator, a world communicator, a great manifester. You were out there doing this altruistic type of lifestyle. And this life, you are to do it again, but not with a robe on and not as a religious leader, but in a common man perspective. Because you have the power to manifest anything you want this life as long as it's for somebody else. Because in other lifetimes you did it for yourself. In this lifetime you too are to empower other people. Last lives, collectively, the power came to you, you kept it. This lifetime you're to use your power, as we all are, to empower others. That's that 1927 and this birth date, which is your life lesson. Of the choice of the selflessness versus that great power. And of course the Aries, which you are, your test is Libra. So look at the Libra sign and you'll see you're supposed to balance your life. You're supposed to balance responsibility, emphasizing responsibility and not so much freedom in this life. And also you're to balance this not me, but you that is important in this life. And the reason why you're involved in metaphysics is the fact that it'll give you the tools whereby you can apply those techniques and procedures with this wonderful personality and your way of expressing. So view every day as an opportunity to tell somebody they did something wonderful with their life, use the power of compliments, and use that great power that you had as a religious leader in a very modern way. But metaphysics is your life, it has been your life, and it gives very practical tools of how you can empower.
All right, thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Bye-bye, Ned. We got one on two. Hello, caller.
Hello,
Who do we got here?
my name is Alfred.
Alfred?
It is
Okay. Your middle name, Alfred?
I don't have any.
Pardon?
I don't have any.
Doesn't have one.
You don't have one.
No.
Okay. You want to give your last name?
Although, S-A-M-T-O-N,
F?
A-L,
Mm-hmm.
T-O-N,
T-O-N.
Yes.
Okay.
Little Fred,
Pardon?
8459.
8459. Where are you calling from, Alfred?
Howard Beach, New York.
Okay.
Al, you come from independence and freedom into responsibility this life. You have been a fantastic communicator in past lifetimes. You had the authority to communicate. You have always been number one and rarely number two. You have a hard time expressing your true emotional nature, and you are asked to express your true emotional nature this life. You are also asked to express and realize that in past lifetimes you had a lot of great lives that you had. And this lifetime it's more of a basic, fundamental, common person kind of a life. It's very important for you to express those emotions, express those feelings, and move into the altruistic persona. Because you have you feel you feel that if you do put yourself into a subservient position, or put yourself into an emotionally supportive position that for some reason you're reluctant to do so, you are encouraged to do so. Because that, as you will, you'll come into the true person that you are, and that is to become a sun energy. And that's through the empowerment of the Word. You are what we call a 999 person, which is a person who is totally here for the service and benefit of others. It's a little interesting sidelight about you, because when you were a priest in the monastery, the Catholic Church said you couldn't have any feelings of sexuality and think about sexuality. You not only thought about them and felt them, but you acted upon them. It's a little funny story here, but it's just because of this. You've had so many lifetimes as this religious leader, and it's very important for you to take on the responsibility of your religious life, because that's a very, very important thing to you. So this has been lifetimes of great communication, great altruism, great power, coming into the common life, learning to express your nature, getting in touch with your femininity, and always evaluate whether your feelings and emotions are superficial or whether they're real. And if you do that, I think life will take on a much more expanded joy and success for you.
Thank you.
Okay, Alfred. Bye-bye. Hello, caller.
Hi, how you doing?
All right, who's this?
Brian.
Hiya, Brian. Where are you calling from?
Wall Lake, Iowa.
What is that?
Wall Lake, Iowa.
Iowa, huh? I'll be darned.
What's your middle name, Brian?
Anthony. And my first name was I, Brian with an I.
Mm-hmm. Well, right away, what's your date of birth, Brian?
5966.
This seems to be the call-ins seem to be a run, and it happens a lot with people who represent a group energy who call in for these kind of readings. 66. You've got an interesting chart here, because you've been going through a dramatic change. How old are you, Brian?
I'm 26.
Next year is going to be a big, big change year for you on your birthday of May 9th. What's going to be happening here between May 9th of 93 and 94, you're going to be going through a major change in your life. And what's going to be happening, there's going to be a window opened up to you between May 9th of 93 to 94. And you're going to see some symbolic representations of your destiny that are going to be taking place for you. And be very aware of the symbols that are presented to you in terms of gifts, the major events in your life between May 9th of 93 and 94, because we've all gone to movies and we've seen previews of coming attractions, because your destiny is going to be squeezed into 1 year symbolically. So between May 9th of 93 and 94, you're going to be shown what your destiny is going to be like. And then in your next year, it's going to be presented to you. And you're going to be presented with an opportunity to become a very selfless, giving person. Your life is very simple. The more you give, the more you get back, but you can't do it for that reason. You've got to keep your mind totally focused upon the service of other people, totally with going out and be helpful to them. The key to your life is in the I in Brian. Are you going to call attention to yourself did in past lifetimes with the A in Anthony? Or are you going to go forth with your selflessness and giving? It is mandatory, and I mean mandatory, my friend, that you go forth with this altruistic sun energy, because you are completing some very, very important aspects of your life right now. Remember my story of the Roman gladiator. You have a choice of the woman to be aroused and resurrected within you, or the tiger, the domination and control. Because you have been a very dominant man, it's very important for you, and you were told before this life in your life script, that you were supposed to be a very altruistic, selfless, giving energy. At your age of 37, you're going to go through a major rebirth. And at age of 36, you're going to go through a huge change. I hope you're making notes about this, Brian, because this is really important. This happens about once every 1,000 readings that somebody goes through a major change in their life. At 37, your destiny meets your pinnacle, meets your potential. Everything comes together for you in your 37th year. And you will be learning how to be a sun, S-U-N, oriented individual. And if you do, all life shall be added unto you. And also to learn to express your emotions very freely. Because you, my friend, have misused freedom so much in past lifetimes. You've been so much into freedom. You've been so much into fun. Heard that song by the Beach Boys? Fun, fun, fun until your daddy took your T-bird away? Well, that's you, my friend. You had so much fun that this lifetime, all of your life is living to how to help people. And it gets into charities, it gets into selflessness, it means giving, the homeless, volunteering and volunteer organization. Remember, your life is totally for the benefit of others. You're living totally, and by the age of 37, there'll be opportunities given to you. Now remember, next year, that 1 year when this window is open, you'll be shown what your destiny is. And take notes about the major events in your life. This is an event, all right? This is a symbol preparing you for what is coming. We need people like you in life because you're the kind of people that are always out there giving. At age 27, you've had your fun, my friend. You've had your fun and your freedom and independence for the first 27 years. It is about ready to change, big time. And as the sun rises and sets, you are going to go through some major, wonderful changes, if in fact you keep your mind focused on the benefit of others.
What about within the current year before that time, as far as my opportunities for employment? Do you see any?
Well, I think you've got to get yourself into some service-oriented job. I think if you think of service organizations, if you think of ways and means of being of service to others, see, you've not been very practical before, and this violation of freedom was rather extensive. You're going to be happier in a service job, particularly after the age of 27, which is just coming up in May. So I think you're looking in the wrong, under the wrong bushel here. I would start looking at ways to be of service, all right? And whatever that service might be, that is where you're going to find your employment. You mind giving me your last name, or?
My last name is Ziegman, spelled Z-I-E-G-M-A-N-N.
You've had a lot of money in past lifetimes, a tremendous amount of money, and it did not bring you any happiness. And this life, I think you're going to, this violation of freedom was rather profound. And it's important for you to really get touched in with where you can be of greatest service to people. And that means after an evaluation, an assessment of what your major assets are in terms of how you can be of service to others, I think some doors are going to be opened up to you. But if you go out there looking for a job for money's sake, it's not going to be what you're going to be happy with. But if you go out there and saying, what are my assets, how can I be of service, how can I help people, I think things will be opened up to you. And I would guess it would be soon. But believe me, this change is going to be rather profound between May 9th of 93 to 94.
All right, anything else? Is that about it?
That's about it. You've been some kind of religious leader in past lives, I want to tell you that, my friend.
Was that?
Oh, you were. You were big time, my friend. Big time. You've always been involved in a lot of different religions and philosophies before, too. And
What about my love life?
yeah, your love life, well, you were fun until your daddy took your T-bird away there, too, my friend, because you were involved in a lot of misuse of sexual energies, so be very careful where you invest your sexual energies this life. It's a big red flag. Huge red flag for you. You have been very diversified, you've been very spiritual, a lot of dichotomous lives. One lifetime you're the strong spiritual leader, and then you get involved in the power of money and the male trappings of power, and then you go back in the monastery to redeem yourself. It's just been back and forth. This time you're here to balance those two energies in your life. Be careful not to scatter your energies. You've been a jack of all trade and master of none for many lives. Get focused, get the blinders on, and get focused towards service, and your life will be very, very successful for you.
Okay, well, thanks.
Good luck to you.
Bye, Brian.
Bye.
So you want to give your number, John, where if folks can get in touch with you?
Yeah, 616-531-1339. I do the readings over the phone. I have a conference call phone where all the recordings are taped in depth. It takes about a half hour to go through the past lives, the present life, the future, the challenges, the turning points, and the karma, which is, with these short readings, I just kind of bottom line everything into a very short, concise reading, but in the readings it goes into a lot of depth of these 9-year turning points as they arrive in the life.
So that's 1-616-531-1339 for get in touch with John Davis personally. So why don't we get back to Bill Clinton, John?
Mr. Clinton.
That's not his real name, though.
No, his name is William Jefferson.
Now, what do you do? What happens to you when you change your name? You're really changing your vibration, right?
Well, he really didn't. Well, he changed his name, but he really didn't change his name. I can't find it here. It's somewhere.
Just be patient and we'll find it
It's
here.
on your. Month, day, year. There we are.
There it is.
William Jefferson Blythe. The will I am of William is the balance of the first ray of the power ray. He's been a master communicator in past lifetimes. He's been a real manifester. He has scattered his energies in other ways. He's got to take on a lot of responsibility in this life, and he operates on a very high intellectual level. Keep in mind, he's had all the experiences from past lifetimes. He's had them all,
Right.
but he has not taken a lot of responsibility for them. He has not forgiven himself for misuse of power in past lives. So there's a lot of forgiveness going on in inner planes. He's being given an opportunity with a 19, and he's a Leo of that same choice of the power or the woman. It's the tiger or the woman within him. If he allows that altruism to come forth, he'll be very, very successful. His life lesson is to tap into his feminine energy, and I sense that he has touched in. And keep in mind, he's had all the experiences before in past lifetimes. There's been a dramatic misuse of power before. He has had some responsibility before. He's done very well with responsibility, but there's something he's done with the misuse of power that he has not forgiven himself for. So he's been given this huge responsibility in his life to see if his mind is on the people, the common person, the empowerment of the common person. And what I've seen today, this is what he has emphasized. But his life lesson is his femininity, his nurturing, his heart orientation, his love self, to love himself more. And right now, and since 35, he could have taken on a lot of responsibility between 35 and 42, which is very powerful. The key to his chart is how he's able to take, at times, to support his cabinet members, support other ideas and concepts rather than bullying ahead totally with his own ideas. If he listens to his advisors, if he listens to his cabinet, he'll be very, very successful. But if he goes back to the old woman of the tiger, he's going to enter into the same problems that he had before. He's not been practical before. He's not had it in touch with his feminine energy. And the I in William is the key, as it is with you. Is it going to be you and we, or is it going to be I and me? You've resolved yours. The question is whether he's resolved his. He's had some very difficult marriages in past lifetimes, a lot of difficult marriages. He fell into the trap of money and power and sexuality before. And as a result, he's asked to be very dedicated to his family, which he has not been before. If he does stay dedicated to his family, if he stays dedicated to the power of the people, he'll be very, very successful. He enjoys change, he enjoys variety. He's got to become more focused, more concentrated.
That's good. Well, let's take a call here and see. Hello?
Ron,
Who we got here?
Barb,
Barbara?
Yep.
Where are you calling from, Barb?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. My goodness.
I love Barbara's. You have a wonderful name, Barbara. Wonderful name. It's one of my favorite female names for many reasons, but I will tell you why. What's your date of birth?
9/18/54.
My son was born on September 18th. You are a Virgo. Your challenge is Pisces. Look at the Pisces, and there is your challenge. I'm sure my expert astrologist will agree with me. Look at the Pisces with the emotional aspect, and that's where a lot of your lessons are. You're coming into a lot of male lifetimes, Barb. You're coming into a full dose of femininity. You have a lot of practicality. You got a terrific personality. You're just wonderful with people. You have an illumined intellect. You got to learn to be alone and not lonely. You got to balance your introvert with your extrovert. You've been involved. That chime was for you, Barb. You're involved in the dominating syndrome through past lifetimes. And much of your life, Barbara, is the 40 days and 40 nights, a very high spiritual path. And you've got to be very careful with money and finances. There's been a misuse of money and finances in other lifetimes. You've got to learn with money that inch by inch is a cinch and yard by yard is hard. You've got to deal very practically with money and get into 4 savings programs, some 401ks, some IRA programs. Never risk your money as you have in past lifetimes. And really develop that great personality and your great intellect and that great manifesting of that beautiful, beautiful energy that you have. You are how old?
38.
You got to stay very careful with money, Barb. Very, very careful with it. Now, you went through a change here on your 36th year. You went through a rebirth. Your 35th year, you went through a big change, didn't you?
Yeah, I was divorced.
Yeah, in 36, you've entered into a lot of individuality. Now, what's happened, which is very unique with you, Barb, is the fact you've entered into a new change in your life. And it's very independent, it's very selfless, it's very giving, it's very loving, and it's very conservative with the use of money. You had 35 years to learn altruism and selflessness, and from 36, basically, all the way through 54, you're going to be asked to act very independently with your life. Remember, you've got this great personality, you've got this great intellect, you've got this great mind. Express it, risk it, give it, but don't give your money, don't risk it, be very tight to the vest with it, and be very cautious with your money. And as you do, you've also been a very strong male in past lifetimes. You fell in the trappings of male dominance and control, misuse of money and misuse of finance. So you've got to be very conservative with money. Use the power of the word, the expression. You should be in a field where you should be selling. You should be in a position where you should be your own boss, a sole proprietor. Find a business and a product you believe in where you are in control. There's a lot of sole proprietor businesses available out there. And I'd get involved with one where you are the boss, you're the distributor, you're the person who's the manager, so to speak. And I think you'll find your life learning all your lessons all wrapped up in being your own boss and very, very close with your vest with money. The only thing you're not supposed to risk is your money. Everything else is a risk. Your emotions, your feelings, your independence, and that great personality of yours. Your life is very intense and has been starting with your 36th year. You went through a rebirth, Barb, and you moved into very early in life the full potential of your life. That's where you got your divorce. Your husband represented an end of a karmic cycle for you. And as you enter into this 36th year, you will find, and you're now 38, you're 3 years into it. Go back to the decisions you made during your 36th year, and you will find you made some very definite decisions what to do with your life. Obviously, one was divorce in your 35th year. Your husband was not compatible with this new direction that you're going into. And that is stand on your own 2 feet, be your own person, keep your mind focused on the service of others, and you'll find this Barbara energy will take you to every little challenge you have in life. You're very fortunate to have a name like this.
So as far as a mate or a love mate or whatever, is Pisces the one, or?
You gotta find somebody who'll give you a lot of independence, a lot of control in the relationship. At the same time, you gotta be emotionally ready to support your new main squeeze. But mostly, he's got to give you equal say in the relationship. You have to be emotionally supportive here, but you're not to give your power away as you did in past lifetimes. Remember, you can spot a dominant man a mile away, right? It's just because you were so strong and dominant as a male in past lifetimes. So be very, very careful that you date this man, and there is definitely another man in your life coming, without a doubt, but it's going to be the man who will give you a lot of say in your relationship. And at the same time, be willing to emotionally support him to a point, but don't give your power away, and don't give your money away, but give your wonderful personality away to everybody you meet, because you have a marvelous personality and also a marvelous mind. Do a lot of reading, a lot of investigation of parapsychology, metaphysics. I think you'll find life very rewarding for you. But believe me, very few people go through this early rebirth and it stays with them, and it'll be with you all the way through age 54. At 55, you'll come into your full femininity. But right now, you got to work off that karma with your masculinity for past lifetimes from the age of 36 through the age of 54. Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, Barbara.
Bye.
Well, that was a good one, John. So, John, you want to talk about Book of Revelations?
Sure, I'm happy to.
I know you've done
This is kind of an interesting story because I'm really not a religionist per se. I'm really a mental scientist. But 1983, I was awakened in the morning, and I would go down and I'd be drawn to the Book of Revelation, and I started decoding some terms, and the first one I decoded was 666. And I know it has some very negative connotations, and I broke the code of 666, and I decided I got to go forth with this information. So I realized it was a positive revelation, so a friend of mine in Chicago booked me into a talk, and it's kind of a funny story. I drove into a motel. I checked in the night before the talk. I turned on the television, and the movie showing was Damien 2, The Return of the Antichrist. Well, I said, oh my gosh, isn't this interesting?
Yeah.
Since I believe there is no Antichrist, and I believe that the whole concept of the Antichrist has been nothing more than illusion and disillusion. And what I found out when I decoded 666 is the fact that when the Aramaic translation took place, the Aramaic spelling of Antichrist was Antechrist. Antichrist means, if you look at anti, it means preceding, before, like a John the Baptist figure, all right?
Wow.
As it was translated from Aramaic into English, it became Antichrist. So as a result, we think that there is an Antichrist. It is my interpretation after 666 Revelation is the fact that there is no Antichrist. And the 666 would be very simply this. The first name is physical. The second name is mental and emotional. The third name is spiritual. So if we break this down to the first 6 meaning the physical, the second 6 meaning the mental and emotional, the third 6 meaning the spiritual, now all we have to do is break the 666 down to what number 6 means, which means service, duty, helping, giving, but also responsibility. So the 666 representing the 6th level of initiation means if we truly are the 666 energy, we take responsibility for our physical, we take responsibility for our mental and emotional, the second 6, we take responsibility for our spiritual, that's the third 6. So in Egypt, which you and I have been, there's the Sphinx and the pyramid representing the opening of the 6th level of initiation, which is the opening of the mind. So if we take responsibility for our mind, which controls our desires, our passions, our habit patterns, we've come into the full revelation of 666. Now, if we take the second level of 666, we have 6 and 6 are 12, and 6 and 6 are 12. The first 12 represents the 12 powers of the masculine mind. The second 12 represents the powers of the feminine mind. As many people know that the Arthurian table had 12 male members and also had 12 female members. So the second level of 666 is the 12 level, which is the authority to communicate our feminine nature and our masculine nature. And it's hidden. The term of 666 is hidden because many people do not want to take that responsibility. There's always a scapegoat in our life. There's always somebody we can blame. And as a result of 666, all the proof and the responsibility falls back on the individual. And if it is really an honor to be 666, because it is the opening of the mind, which is the control of the 6th level, which controls all of the other 5 levels of the chakra system. So this is an honor. The thing is, with any kind of a negative terminology, when we don't understand it, we break it down to its most base form. We must look at all of life as being positive and none of it negative. I do not accept the negative. That is illusion. The 666 was the opening, and it is in Revelation 13:18, that energy called the beast is the same number as John himself. So as John saw the beast in Revelation, the numbers of John is the same numbers as beast. So the beast is not a beast per se, but represents and symbolizes John himself, which saw the beast evolve into the Christ itself that he, in fact, became as a result of evaluating and writing the book of Revelation. By the way, the book of Revelation was written on 7 levels. It was written mostly in the subconscious level, that there's nothing in the book of Revelation that is literal per se, that is written on the subconscious level and therefore has to be decoded because the power of revelation was so powerful that it had to be coded in the form of symbols. That's why John hid it, because he did not want it to be revealed in a form, and he never would have dreamed, I'm sure, when he wrote the book, that it would be misinterpreted like this.
Interesting.
There is no truth to the fact that 666 is the Antichrist, since there is no Antichrist. That is totally an illusion.
Very interesting.
The second term that I broke down was Armageddon, in Revelation 16:16. And Armageddon, by the way, simply means, and broken down from a symbolic standpoint, a symbolic perspective, and I'll just bottom line it for you. It breaks down to 22:60:82. 22 means the master builder. 60 means the word. 60 seconds to a minute, 60 minutes to an hour. Word adds up to 60. It means, Armageddon means the master builder of the word upon the earth. It is not a battle. However, humanity's thought form is so powerful that a couple of years ago we created something which we felt would symbolize that Armageddon as we thought it would be, and we created a little Gulf War, and Israel was supposed to be involved in that war, and it was, so we had to create a little mini war because humanity's energies and thought forms are so powerful that they create these manifestations of what they believe. Armageddon is the master builder of the word upon the earth. It's positive. There's nothing negative about Armageddon. But because humanity believes that Armageddon is a negative term, they created a war to fulfill the biblical prophecy of that thought form created of humanity. It was not necessary. So it's important to diminish and absolutely shatter the thought form of Armageddon, because it is one of the highest positive terms as there is on the earth plane. The master builder of the word. The word creates. It creates on the physical level, the mental level, the emotional level, and the spiritual level. The word in the beginning was the word, and Armageddon means, and he gathered them together in a place which is called Armageddon. Where did he gather together? The powers of his being, the powers of her being, to manifest the word in a positive way upon the earth and shatter the negation of 666, Armageddon. And by the way, the harlot in Revelation is the feminine aspect of the Messiah upon the earth. So it's hidden and disguised so it can be brought forth in a positive way. Anything negative is illusion. And if humanity believes in the thought form strongly enough, it will be manifested. So that's a little bit about Armageddon. I have the book on my office. It's been written partially. I'm going to have to put it in final form eventually. I'm going to have to write it. I was hoping somebody else would come up with it. They haven't.
Decoding the book of Revelations, huh?
It's going to be called Revelation Decoded. A
right.
positive taint has to be put
Look
on.
for that one, folks. That'll be a good one.
Sometime soon.
Sometime soon, okay. Folks, give us a call here at Satellite Psychic, 212-695-8583. Call in here with your questions for John or myself, 212-695-8583. And don't forget the 900 number above us on the screen, 1-900-884-7297. That's a 24-hour psychic hotline number. Use that number whenever you can, whenever you feel free. To call that number, that's $2.99 a minute. You must be over the age of 18, and it's for the entertainment purposes only. So what about Abe Lincoln? He had some numbers, right? Oh, we got a call here. Wait. Hello, caller?
Hi, how you doing?
Fine.
My wife asked me to call, so I'll give you her date.
Okay.
Her name is Linda Jean Steelman, S-E-E-L-M-A-N.
S-E-E-L?
M-A-N.
Mm-hmm.
Her birthday is 12/20/60.
Well, Linda Jean comes from independence into freedom. Excuse me, independence and freedom into responsibility this life. She had a tremendous amount of freedom and responsibility, and this life is a lot of responsibility. Linda is a wonderful, wonderful name. What a personality. I've never met a Linda that did not have a wonderful personality. The key to Linda is the I in Linda. The I in Linda says it's because she has such a marvelous personality and has the ability to communicate. She has to be very concerned about her I. As long as her I is on you and we and not I and me, it's very, very important to her. The L in Linda And the L in Seelman would be she had the authority to communicate. She's been a tremendous communicator in other lifetimes. She's been a wonderful manifester. The Seal man represents when she was a very strong religious leader, there was a misuse of power there. And that misuse of power, that means she's had many more male lives than she has a female life. So this life she has jumped into the female life, and she's had many, many more lives as a man. She hasn't been a woman in a lot of lives, and because she wasn't a woman in a lot of lives, it took a lot of courage to jump back into female form. Just evaluate and say to herself, the way men have treated me in this life is the way I, as a man, treated women like me in another life, because she fell in the trappings of misuse of sexuality. It is very important that she stay very loyal to you, be very dedicated with her sexual energies to you only. It is very, very important to get that point across, because she also should take a look at not scattering her energy. She's been a jack of none in past lifetimes. She's multidimensional and multifaceted, and she has to keep her mind, and she'll have a lot of freedom in this life, but she's got to balance with responsibility. She kind of tiptoed this life into responsibility, where she's had so much fun in past lives. She wanted to keep that fun through her independence and her freedom, but she's got to pay attention to details, balancing checkbooks, dealing with these little details. She's been in the dominating syndrome through many lifetimes, but she's really coming into her own personality. This gal has a tremendous personality. Wow. And everything deals with people. She should be with people. People feel good around her. Any kind of a social events, any social interaction. She's coming into her full embodiment of the female. And that happened in her 28th year, from 28 to 54. She will be forced to be very feminine, very nurturing, very caring. Lucky you. She has to really come into her own nurturing and caring of you, the main squeeze in her life. She's got to forgive herself for her past lifetimes of her sexual indiscretions, her lifetimes of misuse of power as a male, and move in totally into her femininity. Her role model is the ultimate mother energy. To her to be that mother, to love her children, to love her projects, to love her concepts, to love her husband, to take that number 2 position at times so she moves into the full nurturing energy. She has to learn the responsibility of freedom and the freedom of responsibility. But this is a person that will, every time she walks in a room, I'm sure that she is noticed because of that extraordinary personality. Whatever she does, she's supposed to be with the public in some kind of sales function. And if she is, life will be very, very happy for her. She's a very, very powerful being. People remember her just by not what she is, but by the type of energy that she represents. Is really, truly a beautiful communicative person.
I've been trying to convince her to open up her own business. Anything in her personality chart there?
Oh yeah, she should definitely be in her own business where she's in control. She will do very well in anything dealing with sales, promotion of anything. It's a sure thing. She's got to find a product that she believes in. If she finds a product she believes in, things will really take off for her. And she has to find something she believes in. All she has to step forth to the personality. She has to have the variety since she loves change. She has to have something that she's not behind a desk. She can't be working for somebody. It doesn't work. If she does, she knows more than her boss. So as a result, anything in a sole proprietor position, she's evaluated of what she likes to do. And if she finds something she likes to do, is have her move into that field, it will be definitely a success. It'll be easy for her to promote it. Her name will sell. Her energy will sell. All she has to do is to do it, as long as she believes in the product. I agree with you. I think she definitely should. Also, during this time period, and she's about ready to enter she's ready to go through a change next year, between December 20th of 93 to 94. This is a year away. She'll be going through a change, and that change will move into a product which will be of more benefit and service to others, and that will start in her 34th year. And this is the person that really do anything with her life as long as she's out in front. She's a leader. She makes her own decisions, and she keeps her mind totally focused on the service of others. Because between 34 and 42, she will be asked to be of greater service to others, and all of her life will be predicated on the concept of how much service to be to other people.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, caller.
Yes, good morning.
Who's?
This is Don here, and we have just come into New Awakening, and I'm interested in myself and, of course, my wife. She was born on April 10th, 1934, and I was born September 6th, 1939.
Let me just take one of
we
these.
would like to know if we're still on the right path.
Well, I see, what's your first name, Don?
Don,
What's her first name?
Rose, Elise,
Where are you calling from, Don?
Alberta, Canada.
Very good.
I see a lot of compatibility here, Don. She has been caught in the dominator-dominating syndrome. She is in a position where she cannot give her power away, and you have to understand that. When she feels strongly about something, it's because when she didn't stand up for what she was in past lives, she lost her power because of it. You have to understand that. There's a very lovely person here, a very duty, responsibility, and service-oriented, altruistic person, but she's come back in to regain her own power, and that own power comes from the fact she gave her power away. So you have to understand that as a mate, that she has gone through the time when she has misused her power, and she's been the type of individual that has to come into her own power once again. You, my friend, have to learn through your responsibility in your family. Your dates of birth are very compatible. However, both of you have to share more openly. You have a tendency to hold back when you have things to communicate. Leave the criticism to home, but look at the positive aspects of your marriage. Everybody, my friend, including Donald Trump, has a half a glass of water. Emphasize that half a glass of water is half full and never half empty. Look at the positive parts of this relationship, because this relationship is compatible. And a lot of the ball is in your court of realizing the fact that this lady, very strong and lovely as she is, has to be in control and has to reach her own decisions. This dominator-dominating syndrome is very strong within her, and I think a lot of that issue has been resolved. It's mostly up to you to reach that type of compassion in your own life. But I think this relationship has a good chance of making it if both of you express and communicate much more your positive feelings about each other. Build, don't criticize in this relationship. It'll be a success.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, Don. Good luck to you.
Bye-bye. Got one caller here. Hello, caller?
Good afternoon, Reverend Kern.
Yes.
I have a question for Mr. Davis.
Okay.
My name is Diane Allison, and my date of birth is June 5th. And my question is, I'd like to know something about my job situation. Does he see me staying out there for a while?
Yeah, I do. There's a law of dealing with changing jobs. Put a nice resume together, send it out, and if a similar or a more of expanded opportunity comes to you, take it. If not, you've got lessons to learn at your own job. You're the kind of person that's very duty, responsibility, and service-oriented, very direct and to the point. You're very, very direct. You're also caught in the dominator syndrome. You're never going to be happy with the boss because you're always going to know more than the boss, because you're very intelligent and very sensitive and have had a lot of leadership positions in past lives. So the test is, when you deal with a physical problem, when you deal with a business issue, follow the business protocol to resolve your issues with business. Get that resume together, discriminately send it out. If you get a better job offer, take it. If not, you've got other lessons to learn in your job.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good luck to you, Diane.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, folks, thanks a lot, John, for coming in today. It was really
Enjoy it,
great.
Bill.
Really great to have you here. Folks, I'm going to draw the show to a close. I want to thank you all for watching today and all your wonderful calls. Remember, this is the day the Lord chose for you to be joyous and content. I want you to be happy that you're alive, folks. There are a lot of good things going on out there in the world today. Make sure you're a part of them. God bless you, and bye-bye. Shinrai, Shi Shinrai, Shi Shinrai, Om. Shi Shinrai, Shi Shinrai, Shi Shinrai, Om. Shi Shinrai, 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 Om. Folks, don't forget to write your birthday, the day, the year, the month, the hour and the minute that you were born and the place that you were born. Put it in an envelope and send it to Reverend Bill Kern, Cathedral Station, Post Office Box 1323, 215 West 104th Street, New York, New York. And the zip is 10025. I'm going to start next week to go through one chart a week on the air. And if you send your birth information to you, you'll be chosen eventually, folks. So there's the address on the screen there, folks, so write it down. And if any of you folks want any information on John's tours to Greece or to Egypt, write to me at that same address, and I'll be glad to get a brochure out to you, folks. So I want to thank you all for viewing, folks. Bye-bye.